and we're going to continue on from chapter 17. Deuteronomy chapter 17. You shall not plant any tree as an Asherah besides the altar of the Lord your God that you shall make. No, that's not it. You shall not sacrifice to the Lord your God an ox or a sheep in which is blemish and defect whatever. For that is an abomination to the Lord your God. If there is found among you within any of your towns that the Lord your God is giving you, a man or woman who does what is evil in the sight of the Lord your God, in transgressing his covenant, and has gone and served other gods and worshipped them, or the sun, or the moons, or any of the host of heaven which I have forbidden. And it is told you, and you hear of it, then you shall inquire diligently. And it is, if it is true and certain that such an abomination has been done in Israel, then you shall bring out to your gates that man or woman who has done this evil things, and you shall stone that man or woman to death with stone. On the evidence of 2 witnesses or the 3 witnesses, the one who is to die shall be put to death. A person shall not be put to death on the evidence of a 1 witness. The hand of the witness shall be first against him to put him to death, and afterward the hands of the people. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. So the point of this command is not to how to kill people. That's not the point. The point is not to be blameless or not to worship other gods besides other God. So this is strictly, God is actually forbidding to worship any other god beside himself. So people sometimes actually shift their focus about why God is actually punishing people and killing people. This is not about killing people and how to punish people. This is actually warning people how not to worship other God besides him. So we always have to focus on when he gives a command, when he gives a law, why he's doing what he's doing. So the same thing with the laws that we have, the criminal law. It's not about we build a law to punish people. We build a law so that people know there is a consequence they have to face it, so they don't actually commit the crime. Same thing here. God is warning them not to do this, because if you do this, the curse will come upon you and then you'll die. So don't do this. If any case arises requiring a decision between one kind of a homicide and another, one kind of legal right and another, or one kind of assault and another, any case within your town that is too difficult for you, then you shall arise and go up to the place that the Lord your God will choose. And you shall come to the Levitical priest and to the judge who is in office in those days, and you shall consult them. And you shall declare to you the decisions. Then you shall do according to what they declare to you from the place that the Lord will choose. And you shall be careful to do according to all that they direct you, according to the instructions that they give you, and according to the decision which they pronounce to you, you shall do. You shall not turn aside from the verdict that they declare to you, either to the right hand or to the left. The man who acts presumptuously by not obeying the priest who stands to ministers before the Lord your God, or the judge, the man shall die. So you shall purge the evil from Israel, and all the people shall hear, and fear not act presumptuously again. Once again, God is also giving people instructions what to do and what not to do. And then, the judge has to be fair, and also they have to follow the law that God has set. So this is to teach the people that God has set the rules and laws and regulations, and all this is not just there for, for people to follow. It is not there, or hasn't given to them as an accessory. This is something that they have to actually follow and abide to the, their law. Verse 14. This is the piece where you should get a little puzzled. When you come to the land that the Lord your God is giving you, and you possess it and dwell in it, and then say, I will set a king over me, like all the nations that are around me. You may indeed set a king over you, whom the Lord your God will choose. One from among your brothers you shall set as a king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you, who is not your brother. Only he must not acquire many horses for himself, or causes the people to return to Egypt in order to acquire many horses. Since the Lord has said to you, you shall never return that way again. And he shall not acquire many wives for himself, lest him heart turn away, nor shall he acquire for himself excess of silver and gold. And when he sits on the throne of the kingdom, he shall write for himself in the book a copy of this law, approved by the Levitical priest. And it shall be within him, and he shall read in it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God by keeping all the word of this law and these statutes, and doing them, that his heart may not be lifted up above his brothers, and that he may not return aside from the commandments, either to the right hand or to the left, so that he may continue long in his kingdom and his children in Israel. This particular sections of the law, or the command that God gave it to Moses and taught Israelites, is a little strange. Why is it strange? Why do you think it's strange? Anyone? Yeah. Let's turn to 1 Samuel chapter 8. 1 Samuel chapter 8. We're going to read from verse 8. When Samuel became old, he made his sons judge over Israel. The name of his first son was Joel, and the name of his second son Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba. Yet his sons did not walk in his way, but turned aside after gain. They took bribes and perverted justice. Then all the elder of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah, and said to him, Behold, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint for us a king to judge us like all the nations. But things displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed to the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, Obey the voice of the people in all that they say to you. For they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me from being king over them, according to all the deeds that they had done from the day I brought them up out of Egypt, even to this day, forsaking me and serving other gods. So they are also doing to you. Now then, obey their voice. Only you shall solemnly warn them and showed them the way of the king who shall reign over them. So Samuel told all the word of the Lord to the people who were asking for a king from him. He said, "These will be the ways of the kings who will reign over you. He shall take your sons and appoint them to his chariot, and to be his horsemen, and to run before his chariot. And he will appoint for himself a commander of 1,000s and commander of 50s, and some to plow his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his implements of war and equipment of his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumed, and cooks and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards, and olive orchards, and give them to his servants. He shall take the 10th of your grain of your vineyard, and give it to his officials and to his servants. He will take your male servants and female servants, and the best of your young men, and your donkeys, and put them to his work. He will take the 10th of your flocks, and you shall be his slaves. And in that day you will cry out because of your king, whom you have chosen for yourself, but the Lord will not answer you in that way." But the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, "No, but there shall be a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and our king may judge us and go out before us and fight for battles." And when Samuel had heard all the words of the people, he repeated them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, "Obey their voice and make them a king." Samuel then said to the men of Israel, "Go every man to his city." So when you read this story, this is the first time ever that Israel asked for a king. Before that time, the judges were ruling the land. So there was no king, and there was only a judge. People like Moses and Joshua and other people who followed their ways. So there was no such thing as a king in Israel, because God was the king, and he is the one who ruling, and he's the one who's sovereign, his own kingdoms. So not like any other country, any other surrounding countries, that they had their own king, and they follow the king, versus Israel. God is the king, and then everyone followed the God. So that was a structure difference between Israel and any other surrounding countries. But they saw that they were keep losing their battles, and they saw there's no physical body that they can actually follow and talk to and listen to. So they looked, other countries. So, and then it seemed good to have a king that they can follow. So the king gives the commands, and king is the leaders, and everyone follows it. It seemed to be very easy, because it is a physical form that they can actually, follow. It's not like God is the king that they cannot see, they cannot talk, they cannot, do anything with the king. So Israelites asked, "Listen, you have 2 sons, but these 2 sons are not like you at all. Their ways are perverted, and they're taking bribes, they're not giving the right judgment, and you're old. So we cannot follow you or your sons. So we don't have any leaders, we don't have any kings to follow like any other countries. So give us a king, appoint a king, so that we can follow." Which is not a bad request. It's a reasonable request that Israel can make. But the point here is, God was not happy. God said to Samuel, they rejected me as a king, and they're asking for a king. God should be the king for Israel. There should be no other king, because God is the King of kings. So what other kings do they need? But once again, when they looked all the surrounding country as the king, Israel was the only country that doesn't have any king at all. So it seemed a very logical request they were making, that they want to have a king. So the point is, if God did not like the way they requested, and God said, they rejected me. They did not reject you, but they rejected me as a king, because I'm the king. If he's the king, and if he wants to rule Israel, and that was his plan, then going back to the Deuteronomy chapter 17, what is the law that God gave this to Moses? So which means, if God gave this law to Moses, it's not just at the end of the journey, right? This law was given to Moses when he was at the, Mount Sinai, which is the very beginning of the journey. So then, if he gave this law to Moses, right, that means God knew that they're going to ask for a king. That's why God gave this law. If they ask for a king, this is the law. So, God already gave this law to Moses even before they asked. When they asked for a king, that was like almost 400 years later. Because the time that they're asking for a king is the time when Samuel was actually in work. So that was way after the time of Judge, and way after the time that Joshua actually lead them into the Canaanite. So God already knew what they were going to request. So he said, if they ask for a king, this is what you should do. So verse 15, coming back to Deuteronomy chapter 17, and verse 15 says, you may indeed set a king over you, whom the Lord your God will choose, ones from among you, your brothers, and you shall set as a king over you. You may not put a foreigner over you, and who is not your house or brother. Only he must not acquire many horses for himself, or seize the people to return to Egypt in order to acquire many horses, since the Lord has said to you, Lord shall never return that way again. So when they appoint the king has to be appointed by God, not appointed by people. God will appoint the king. He will decide who should be the king. So this is, when you actually read, this is not a democracy. This is more the socialism, right? Or this is more a communist way to appoint a king, because people do not have any rights to choose who their king should be. God has to choose. They have no authority to choose for themselves. So from that perspective, God is the one who appoints a man to rule over them on behalf of God, but God is giving them a guidance as to what the king should be doing. The first things that God is saying is, do not, if anyone who become a king, do not own too many wives or too many horses. Do not go to Egypt. Do not look for any, support from powerful country. Do not go wealthier countries to get more from you, because God will provide. So that's the first requirement. Do not have many wives. Do not turn away from God's law, and they should not have any excessive gold or silvers, because if you do, it will spoil you. It will spoil you. So do not have that. And verse 18, and when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself in the book a copy of this law, approved by the Levitical priest. So get close to the word, the book of law. So get close to it. And verse 19, and it shall be with him, the book of law should be close to him, and he shall read it in all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God by keeping all the words of the law and these statutes and doing them. As I mentioned, if you get close to the book of law, if you get close to the scriptures, you will automatically learn how to fear the Lord if you read it right. If you understood it right, you will fear the Lord. But that's not the point. So God is saying, close to the word, because the word will teach them to fear the Lord. So the purpose of getting to know the gods is through the word. So anyone who become a king, instead of trying to be a boastful, or trying to learn the way from other countries, or following the leadership from other kingdoms, and none of those. All you need is get close to the word, and the rest of it God will provide. In verse 20 it said, that his heart may not be lifted up above his brother. So if you have all of these, if you have a lot of gold and silvers, and if you have a lot of chariots, and if you have horses, you'll become very, very and the king will do whatever he wants. So don't try to do that. So the king have to be humble. King have to be follower of the Lord. The king has to get close to the Lord and his word. Those are the things that God is telling the king should do. But when you look at the history of all the kings, starting from Saul to all the kings of Israel and all the kings of Judah, how many of the people really followed this statute and the law? Very, very little. Very, very little. One of the examples of this failure was Solomon. Solomon was a perfect example of this. Solomon was very wise, and he was full of wisdom. And many of the kings from other country came to him and listened to his wisdom. And a lot of people brought the gold and silvers and bronze to him. So he really enjoyed all this prosperity that was brought in from other country. And during the reign of Solomon, he did not have any severe, the war with any other country at the time. It was a peaceful, just like his name stands, and he didn't have to worry anything. But at the end of his journey, and practically many of the wives that he had pretty much ruined him. So we'll take a look at First King. Second King? First King. First King, we're going to take a look at chapter 10. We're going to read from verse 23 and on. The King Solomon excelled all the kings of the earth in riches and in wisdom, and the whole earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put into his mind. Every one of them brought his presents and articles of a silvers and a gold, and garments and myrrh, spices, horses and mules, so much year by year. And Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen. He led 1,400 chariots and 1,200 horsemen, whom he stationed in the chariot city and with the king of Jerusalem. And the king made the silver and command in Jerusalem as a stone, and he made the cedar and the plentiful as the sycamore of the Shephelah. Lord and Solomon imported of horse was from Egypt and Cu, and the king's traders received them from Cu at a price. A chariot could be imported from Egypt for 600 shekels, and silver, and a horse 450. And so Hades, the king's trader, they were exported to all the kings of the Hittites and the king of Syria. So as you can see here, Solomon had a lot. God granted him the wisdoms, and God granted him the peace, and his territory was expanded, and things were great. From, the people's perspective, everything was going very well. But when you look at the chapter 11, now King Solomon loved many foreign women, along with the daughters of Pharaoh, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, and Sidonians, and Hittite women. Among the nations, concerning what the Lord had said to the people of Israel, you shall not enter into marriage with them, neither shall they with you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clung to these in love. He had 700 wives who were princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned him away his heart. For when the Solomon was old, his wife turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not wholly true to the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. So when you look at the things that Solomon had, Solomon was very rich. He had a lot of gold. He had a lot of the animals, and he had a lot of wives. But important thing is, who turned his heart? His wives. Not one, but how many? And as I mentioned, even if you see your wife one a day, in order for you to see that person again, it takes 3 years, right? You see the girls every day, right? Not missing a day, not skipping any day. You're seeing the girls every single day for 3 years to see the girl again. By the time you actually come to see her again, you may say, like, do I know you? If I have to remember 700 women, their face and what they look like, I don't think I can remember their face. Yeah, not to mention their names, right? I don't think I can even remember their face if there's 700. Yeah, but that's just the pure wife, right? And then how many concubines he had? So it's about 1,000, right? So if you add those to concubines, and then you will see that one woman maybe once a 4 years, if you're lucky, right? If you're lucky. If you're not lucky, you may not see them for like once in their life and never see them again. Right? He's got other matters to do. So God said, do not have many wives. Do not have many women. But Solomon, with the full of wisdom, right? And finally, his wives turn his heart away from the Lord. God warned him, as a king, you should not have too many horses. You should not have many wives, and get close to the word. But everything God told him through Moses, Solomon was against it. When he was young, he did. He followed God's word. But as he get older, and as he get much power, as he got more power, he decided not to follow God's word. And when you read so we're going to read from 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 8 and on, and if you look at this, and so he did for all his foreign wives who made offerings and sacrificed to other gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice and had commanded him concerning these things, that he should not go after other gods, but he did not keep what the Lord commanded. Therefore the Lord said to Solomon, since this has been your practice, and you have not kept my covenant with my statute that I have commanded you, I will surely tear the kingdom from you, and will give it to your servants. Yet for the sake of David your father, I will not do this in your days, but I will tear it out of the hand of your sons. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom, but I will give one tribe to your sons for the sake of David, my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem that I have chosen. So, God appeared to Solomon twice and warned him and turned away from his way, but he literally turned a deaf ears and he did not respond to God. He was continued to doing what he was doing. Now you understand why God gave the law to Moses not to do this. Because if you do, you will turn away from me. You will turn away. And God warned him. And as I mentioned, it's not like we don't know. It's not like we don't know. We know all this. Solomon knew all this. It's not like Solomon did not know. God told him, and he knew it, but it doesn't matter whether you knew it or not. You will still turn away from the Lord. That is the human behavior. This is why we talked about, in a few sessions before that, rich people, if you have too much money, you will not go to heaven. And many of the people say, why can a rich man can go to heaven? Well, God is not defined that all rich men cannot go to heaven. But if you become rich, you will become greedy. And you're just like, the money will become your own, own God. You will follow it. Therefore, you will ruin yourself. Same thing. To become a king, to reign over this, God's kingdom, you have to be humble. You have to get close to the God's words. Do not have too many horses. Do not have too many wives. Then you'll be able to actually do this. Okay, so then, all right, so then it's very simple, all right? I will not have too many wives. I will not have too many horses. Then I must be able to actually follow God. Yes? The answer is no. Because when you look at the history of Israel and Judea, all the kings, they all failed one way or another. Well, obviously we don't know how many wives and how many horses that they had on each of them. Only Solomon was one of them, listed how many wives he had, how many horses he had. But not all king listed how many wives or how many concubines or how many horses that they had. But when you look at the history, the Israel history, almost every king failed. So then you ask, then what's the point? What's the point of giving this instructions? Even if you don't have too many wives, even if you don't have too many horses, you still fail. Then what's the point? First of all, you have to understand why God is actually giving this instructions to Moses. Number one, there are so many things that will draw our attentions, and so many things that shift our minds away from the Lord. If we as a man, if you have too much of a wealth, too many wives, you will surely very easily get it, turn away from the Lord. Because that's how our heart works. That's very natural human behavior. It's very natural. It's not like, you try to control yourself and, you try not to do this. But imagine, you don't need the 700 wives and you don't need the 300 concubines. Even if you have 10 wives, you will still do this. All right? Not to mention 10, 5, you still fail. If you love some woman, then you will follow what woman says. You'll be easily be deceived. So there was the story. It's not in the Bible, but there was a story of in the time of Persian was ruling the whole Middle East and Europe, king brought all this wise men, all the wise men, and he gave one riddle, not a riddle, it's like a quiz. So, what is the strongest thing in the world? So everyone came up with their own answers. What is the most powerful and most strongest thing in the world? The king asked. And all these wise men came up with all this good, the answers. And there was 3 men was chosen to have most powerful and most, wise answers among all others. And the first one came and said, "Your Highness, the king, my lord, alcohol is the most strongest thing in the world. If you get drunk, you don't see anything, you will do whatever. If you're drunk, you literally cannot function. The alcohol can control even king. If a king is completely drunk, you can't control it. You are controlled by the alcohol. So alcohol is the most strongest things." And everyone said, sounds reasonable. Okay. And the second man came to and said, No. It's not alcohol. The strongest of things is a woman. So king asked, "Why a woman?" He said, "King, even though you may be the most powerful man in the whole world, but you listen to your wife. So even though you're the one who's actually ruling the country, and the woman can kind of control you, and you listen to that woman. So you may claim yourself as the most powerful man, but woman is above you. And on top of that, even if you don't listen to those women, right, you may listen to your mother. You may listen to your daughter. What they say is more powerful than the man's around you. So I would say the woman is the most powerful thing in the world." And the king said, that sounds very reasonable. Yeah, that's very true. And a third man came and said, all these 2 men said were absolutely true. The alcohol is a powerful thing. Women are the powerful things. But you know what? Out of all this, the truth is the most powerful thing. The truth is the most powerful thing. No matter what you say, everyone has to come to the conclusion that we all have to agree on the truth. We cannot deny the truth. And the one who actually said the truth is the most powerful thing is the one the award. And his name was Zerubbabel. He's the one who actually brought all this reward and build the second temple. So the women are very strong and powerful, because the man can be very strong, but when you look at the human history, many of the men failed because of a woman. Many of the men was successful because of a woman. Right? And it's very true. And when you look at the history of
Egypt and Romans. Do you know who was the last the ruler of the Egypt kingdom? You know this person very well. Yeah. If I tell this person, you would know. Ah. Who's the last? The king or the pharaoh of the last Egypt. Well, some may say like I'm not strong in history. Yeah. This person is Cleopatra. Yeah. She was the last one, right? Everyone knows, right? And although you don't know the whole history of what happened to her, right? But she's the one who is controlling the Roman Empire by actually having an affair with the most powerful man in Rome, Caesar. Right? Caesar fell in love with the Cleopatra, and Cleopatra was the one who was actually manipulating him, right? To control the Roman Empire and Egypt. Even though Caesar was the most powerful man in Rome at the time, still, was controlled by one woman. Same thing. Woman can actually, influence is very powerful way. Some ways good, some ways bad, right? But God is saying if you have too many wives, though too many wives will not lead you to God. It will lead you to other way. So the question is, that's kind of strange. Why not all this woman not lead them to God? What if there's so many wives, right? Maybe they all lead the king to God rather than turn away from God, right? Why is that? Is that because the women are all evil? Thank God the answer's not here. She's gonna try to kill me. No, not because the women are all evil. There's a reason. Because when you think about it, woman could lead the king to God rather than walking away from the Lord. But why God is saying too many wives? If you have too many wives, they will turn away, turn your heart away from the Lord. Well, once again, it's too much influence could be, towards to God rather than away from the God. But according to the law that God gave it to Moses, the too many wives will turn away from the Lord. Why? So let's talk about your case, Ingy. Is your girlfriend leading you to God or turning away from the God? No influence whatsoever. Think about it. Is your mother influenced you to get close to the Lord or turning away from the Lord. Right. So then a woman could, kind of like influence a man to follow the Lord rather than turning away from the Lord. But once again, when you look at it, when you look at the history, it actually says in many cases that women and many women that turn away from the Lord, because you have to look at the whole picture here. Woman is portrayed as Israel and a church. By our own nature, we're not bound to follow the Lord. We always turn our heart away from the Lord. The man is always the one who has to pull the woman. God is the one who always to pull the Israel. Jesus is the only, is the one who always needs to lead the church. Right? The women's are very easy to get distracted, and women's are very easy to just, turn away from the Lord. Not because the women's are evil, because this kind of portrays the Israel, this portrays the church, which their weakness and their heart always not towards the Lord, but away from the Lord. So having too many wives is not going to help a man to follow the Lord. I tell you, one is enough. I will tell you, you will not be able to manage two. Okay? I could hardly even manage one. All right? So, the king must close to the word. Not only not having too many wealth or too many horses and too many wives, but the critically important for you to get close to the word. If you get close to the word, and then you will learn that you are not in control. God is in control. God will rule over Israel through you, through the king. But ultimately, God is in control. You will learn it if you know the word. But if you don't know the word, you will become very proud, and you will become, very selfish, and then you will think that you're the one who's actually doing all this work by yourself. So God is telling, get close to the word. You always have to get close in order for you to fear the Lord. So verse 19, once again, it's very important. And it shall be with him, and he shall read in all the days of his life. Just not once a day, not just like once a week. Throughout your life span, you have to read God's words. Right? Read in it all the days of your life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God by keeping all the words of this law and these statutes. So once again, if you know the God's word, if you get to know him, no one will have to tell you what to do, because God will tell you, and you will learn to fear the Lord, and you will follow God's word. That his heart may not be lifted up above his brothers, and that he may not turn aside from the commandments either to the right hand or to the left, so that he may continue long in his kingdom, he and his children in Israel. Once again, this is the God's law, but none of the king literally follow this. None of the king. either in north of Israel, south of Judah, none of the king followed this. So we have to learn, we're not king, you're not king, right? But no matter who we are, we have to learn that three things. Don't try to be too wealthy. Don't try to have too many wives, too many women, and try to stay with the word. And at least if you do all three, then you'll be able to actually learn how to follow the Lord. Even if you don't have all of these, right? We still don't follow the Lord. When you think about it, you don't have many wives. You're not really wealthy. But if you don't really get close to the God's word, and you won't be able to actually follow the Lord.
Chapter 18. The Levitical priest, all the tribe of Levi, shall have no portion or inheritance with Israel. They shall eat the Lord's food offering as their inheritance. They shall have no inheritance among their brothers. The Lord is their inheritance, as he promised them. And this shall be the priest due from the people, from those offering sacrifice, whether an ox or a sheep. They shall give to the priest the shoulders and the 2 cheeks and the stomach, the first fruit of your grain, of your wines, and of your oils, and the fleece of your sheep, you shall give him, for the Lord your God has chosen him out of all the tribe to stand and minister in the name of the Lord to him and his sons for all times. And if a Levite comes from any of your towns out of all Israel where he lives, and he may come when he desires, to the place that the Lord will choose, and minister in the name of the Lord his God, like all his fellow Levites, who stand to minister there for the Lord, then he may have equal portions to eat, besides what he receives from the sales of his Deuteronomy. So God is making sure that all the priest or the Levites among themselves, that they don't have their own land. God did not really allocate the portions of the land to them, but for all the people living in the area to give the tithe to the Lord, and then the tithe will be given to them as well. When you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you, you shall not learn to follow the abominable practice of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone who burns his son or his daughters as an offering, anyone who practices divinations or tells fortunes or interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or a chamber, or the medium, or necromancer, or one who inquire of the dead. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord your God is dividing them out before you. You shall be blameless before the Lord your God. For these nations which you are about to dispossess, listen to fortune tellers and to diviners. But as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do this. The reason God is actually giving this land, all this lands in the Canaan, is because God waited for such a long time until their sins, up to the certain level, and God is driving them out and replacing them with Israel, his chosen people. And if they go into the land, and if they do follow and mingle with the people living among them, and follow their own practice and follow their gods, obviously
not only all the Canaanite will be punished, but also Israel will be punished as well. And there is no reason for God to actually place the Israel on top of them. But interestingly, if God puts the Israel in the Canaan, why not the people who live in Canaan follow what Israel is doing? Why would Israel follow them rather than them following Israel? Because there are a chance that, Israel might actually follow their practice, or maybe reverse. They maybe follow what Israel's are doing. But God is always warning them, do not follow their practice. God never said, influence them so they follow you. But why God is saying, influence them and change them and evangelize them so they all follow the Lord. And this is going back to the things that I kept talking about. It is very very nature of us that we always have tendency to walk away from the Lord. If we leave ourselves alone, instead of we following the Lord, we always, just distance away from the Lord. It's very easy for us. Not to mention all the Canaanites. We have to understand that we have to force ourselves to get close to the Lord. In order for us to get close to the Lord, we have to get close to the Word. If you're not close to the Word, I guarantee you, your heart will, distance yourself away from the Lord. If as much as you're away from the Word, that's how much you're away from the Lord. So if we leave the Israelites there by themselves, they will easily get blended with them instead of having them, follow the Israelites. Verse 9. Verse 15. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your brothers. It is to him you shall listen. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your brothers, and it is to him you shall listen. Who is he referring to? It's a Joshua, right? It's Joshua who's, kind of like, follow his way. So it's referencing Joshua. But Joshua is literally Jesus. So, when you look at Book of Acts, Book of Acts chapter 7.
Acts chapter 7. Acts chapter 7 is something that the Stephen was giving the lectures to the people right before he was, stoned to death. And he was giving the whole history of Israel. As he was actually explaining the history of Israel, and read from verse 37. This is the Moses who said to the Israelites, God will raise up for you a people like me from your brother. This is the one who was in the congregations in the wilderness with the angel who spoke to him at Mount Sinai. And with our father, he received a living oracle to give it to us. Our father refused to obey him, but unthrust him aside, and in their hearts they turned to Egypt, saying to Aaron, make for us a God who will go before us, as for this Moses who led us out from the land of Egypt, who do not know what has become of him. And they made a calf in those days and offered a sacrifice to the idols, and were rejoicing in the work of their hands. So he's explaining all of these stuff, which we just learned from, all this stories in Exodus and Numbers and Deuteronomies, right? And he mentioned about exactly what he said. And then we're going to turn to the same book, Acts chapter 3. We're going to read from verse 18, book of Acts, chapter 3, verse 18 and on. Actually, from 17. And now, brothers, I know that you acted in ignorance, as did also your rulers. But what God foretold by the mouth of all the prophets, that his Christ would suffer, he though fulfilled. Repent therefore, and turn back, what your sin may be blotted out, that times of refreshing may come from the presence of the Lord, and that he may send the Christ appointed for you, Jesus, whom heaven must receive until the time for the restoring all the things about which God spoke by the mouth of his holy prophet long ago. Moses has said, the Lord God will raise up for you a prophet like me from your brothers. You shall listen to him in whatever he tells you. And it shall be that every soul who does not listen to the prophet shall be destroyed from the people. And all the prophets who have spoken from Samuel and those who came after him also proclaim these days, you are the sons of the prophets, and the covenant that God made with his father, saying to Abraham, and in your offspring shall all the families of the earth be blessed. God, having raised up his servant, sent them to you first, to bless you by the turning every one of you from your wickedness. So, Peter is speaking in the Solomon's portico about Jesus, is proclaiming that Jesus is the one who has been prophesied from all days, even from Moses. And he is referencing this particular things that we just read in the Deuteronomy. It said, the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your brothers. It is him you shall listen. So who is he referring to? Of course he's referring to Joshua, but it's a double prophecy. It's not only referencing Joshua, but Joshua is the form of a Jesus. So he's referencing Jesus is the one who is going to come, and you have to listen to him. And Peter is referencing, Paul is referencing that the prophet that Moses spoken is the Jesus. You shall listen to him. So this prophecy was appointed to Jesus. At the time when he spoke about this one, he himself did not know, but it was the double prophecies. So coming back to verse 16, Deuteronomy chapter 18. Just as you desired of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, or see this great fire any more, lest I die. And the Lord said to me, they are right in what they have spoken. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers, and I will put my word in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I commanded him. Obviously, that's the Jesus I just mentioned. And whoever will not listen to my word that he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him. But the prophet who presumes speak a word in my name that I have not commanded him to speak, or who speak in the name of other gods, that same prophet shall die. And if you say in your heart, how may we know the word that the Lord has not spoken? When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the word does not come to pass or come true, that is a word that the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken in presumptuously. You need not be afraid of him. So they asked in verse 21, and if you say in your heart, how may we know the word that the Lord has not spoken? The answer is, when the prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the word does not come to pass or come true, that is the word that the Lord has not spoken. So if the word does not come to pass or come true, it is not from the Lord. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You need not be afraid of him. If the word that they spoken come to pass or come true, then you know it has come from the Lord, because God's promise will always be fulfilled and will come true, because God will not lie. But everything, if the prophet was actually heard from the Lord, and if that was actually spoken by the true prophet of what they received from the Lord and has spoken, it will come true. There's no such a thing that God said one thing and then does another. He's always saying things through the prophet will be fulfilled. So God is promising, I will send the prophet, and as he said, the Jesus came in as he said. So everything that proper prophet prophesies will be fulfilled and will come true. And we know, because we know as a history, this was fulfilled. Although many of the people who are sitting there and listening to Moses, the lecture, they did not know who this was. But we know who this is, because Moses was referencing Jesus. When he comes, listens to him. And God is saying, when I raise him up, you will listen to him. Well, no, who should we listen to? We know who we should listen to. So Jesus is the one who we always have to focus, and Jesus is the one that Bible is always concentrating on. Okay, so it's 11:40 now. Instead of going to... Let's just finish the verse, chapter 19 quickly, because I'm not going to go into too much detail, so let's just finish up to chapter 19. When the Lord your God cuts off the nations whose land the Lord your God is giving you, and you disposes them, and dwell in their cities, in their houses, you shall set apart 3 cities for yourself in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess. You shall measure the distance and divide into 3 parts the area of the land that the Lord your God gives you as a possession, so that any manslayer can flee to them. So I mentioned about this, the city of refuge, many times. So you understand what this is about. This is the provision for the manslayer who is fleeing. There may save his life. If anyone kills his neighbor unintentionally without having hated him in the past, as when someone goes into the forest with his neighbor to cut wood, and his hand swings the axis to cut down a tree, and the head slips from the handle and strikes his neighbor so that he dies. He may flee to one of these cities and live, lest the avenger of blood is hot anger pursue the manslayer and overtake him, because the way is long, and strike him fatally. Though the man did not desire to die, since he had not hated his neighbor in the past, therefore I command you, you shall set apart 3 cities, and if the Lord your God enlarges your territory as he has sworn to your fathers, and gives you all the lands that he promised to give to your fathers, provided you with the careful to keep all the commandments which I command you today, by loving the Lord your God and by walking ever in his ways, then you shall add the 3 other cities to these 3, lest innocent blood be shed in your land the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance, and so the guilt of bloodshed be upon you. But if anyone hates his neighbors and lies in wait for him and attacks him and strikes him fatally so that he dies, and he flees into one of these cities, then the elders of the city shall send and take him from there and hand him over to the avenger of blood so that he may die. Your eyes shall not pity him, but you shall purge the guilt of innocent's blood from the Israel, so that it may be well with you. So if someone is intentionally murdering someone, even if you actually flee into the city of refuge, you will not be protected. You will be delivered to the avenger, then you'll be killed, and by your own your own sins. You shall not move your neighbors a landmark which the man of old have set in the inheritance that you will hold in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess. This is one of the things that I mentioned. What if the old Israelites, their land was given to each tribe, and then said, well, enlarge my territory, right? Just like what they just kept saying in the what is that? Yeah, it's like, enlarge my territory. Everybody's saying, enlarge my territory. I want to move my, territory line, God is saying, do not move it. This is what I give it to you. Stay where you are. A single witness shall not suffice against a person for any crime or any wrong in connections with any offense that he has committed. Only on the evidence of the 2 witnesses or the 3 witnesses shall be charged to be established. If malicious witness arise to accuse a person of wrongdoing, the both parties to the dispute shall appear before the Lord, before the priest and the judges who are in office in those days. the judge shall inquire diligently, and it is if the witness is the false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he had meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from your midst, and the rest shall hear the fears, shall never again commit any such evil among you. Your eyes shall not pity, it shall be a life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and hand for hand, foot for foot. So, it's very simple. If you commit sins, whether it's a small or big, you will be judged. You will be judged, right? And make sure they have witnesses, and true witnesses. Even with the true witnesses, make sure you listen to the couple of witnesses. Make sure they, speak on behalf of you. Instead of you, defending yourself, you need to have witnesses to approve that, what you did is not wrong. When we die, we have our lawyer protecting and defending for us. One side is Jesus, the other side is the Holy Spirit. There are witnesses that they're going to defend us, to protect us. It is some things that you have to remember. Take a quick look at John chapter 8. John chapter 8, we're going to read from verse 12. Again, Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So the Pharisees said to him, You are bearing witness about yourself. Your testimony is not true. Jesus answered, Even if I do bear witness about myself, my testimony is true. For I know where I came from and where I am going, but you do not know where I come from or where I'm going. You judge according to the flesh. I judge no one. Yet even if I do judge, my judgment is true. For it is not I alone who judge, but I and the Father who sent me. In your law it is written that the testimony of the two people is true. I am the one who bears witness about myself, and the Father who sent me bears witness about me. They said to him, Therefore, where is your Father? Jesus answered, You know neither me nor my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. These words he spoken in the treasury as he taught in the temple, but no one arrested him because his hour has not yet come. So even Jesus saying, my testimony, right, has witness. It's not just me just saying this, but I have a witness as saying this. Me as witness, and my Father is the witnessing for me. So my saying is right. And even Jesus saying, I have witness as speaking for me. I have a witness. Because the law said you need to have a witness is to defend it. It needs to have a two. Right? So Jesus said, I have a witness. My Father is my witness. Myself is a witness. I have witness. Because there's no other witness can actually speak on behalf of us. So at the end, we would have our witness as well. We would have our Jesus, one side. We would have the Holy Spirit on the other side, will speak on behalf of us. And they will only give us the true testimony about how we lived, what we believed. Okay, up to chapter 19. I want to actually move much quicker, but I'm not moving as fast as I wish. Any questions up to this point?